my God!
Big goal to go from the two. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it under the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. It's diving to the goal line. A touchdown and a title for the Patriots.
I can't believe it.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Puppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything possible! What's up, everyone, and hopefully you guys have a good start to your week. This is Kicking with Kruse. I'm your host, as always, Ben Kruse. And yeah, hopefully you guys had a good weekend. I was fortunate enough to have a couple days off from work this weekend, so obviously that's good because I don't always have that with my work schedule. But it's good to be back on here and obviously give you content as always to you guys. Before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe to the MI6 network, IM6 network for all of our upcoming shows and stuff like that. Extra Point, our football show. We have hockey starting tomorrow. Led by Taylor. Taylor's going to have a podcast like he did last year with that. I'll probably be a guest on that, so that should be pretty exciting. And obviously all the other fun stuff. Feel free to join on for that stuff, and obviously make sure to join in for that. So, but yeah, obviously what's on tap for tonight? Kind of a pretty much similar vibe to Saturday's show. We'll talk about MLB postseason. We'll talk about the latest of the division series rounds, the 4 that are going on right now. We have one that is currently almost at the end that I'm currently watching the end of with the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. But we'll go through all of them tonight. So, and then obviously we'll talk about the recap of NFL Week 5. Wow, the season's already kind of flown by a little bit here. And then you have as breaking news right now, the Diamondbacks have won the game 2 against the Dodgers. They're up now 2-0. Massive. We'll talk more about that for sure. Now, obviously, in terms of football, we'll talk about the NFL Week 5 reactions. Got to talk about some stuff from my Patriots, as it's been absolutely brutal, and much more. All the latest rumors, news, and the NFL for sure. And then obviously some college football stuff if we get to, and also maybe a little bit of basketball and hockey. Hockey obviously starts tomorrow, but obviously we'll kind of see in terms of where things are. And obviously we'll talk in terms of other stuff with Isaiah and potentially James, my 2 hosts typically on my show. So without further ado, let's get started, guys, and we will go through now our baseball segment as always to start tonight's program. So with that being said, we will start with the latest from the divisional series. It looks like we actually had James coming on, so James looks like he's getting set it up as of right now. But without further ado, though, James, looks like obviously you're getting set up, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're having a good start to the week. Hopefully you had a good weekend. For sure. Now, with that being said, James, obviously, we had 2 games today in the National League. Talk about 2 really thrilling games. One was kind of a comeback game that the Braves were able to pull out, and just a couple of theatric type of moments at the end. You look at Zach Wheeler pitching absolutely phenomenal for 7 innings. They take him out. The Phillies bullpen had a hard time, obviously, regrouping. The biggest thing, I think, in this game specifically, and for obviously, I talk more about that. James, how are you? James.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm getting everything set up. But yeah,
Yeah, you're good.
you know, the sports. Was kind of surprised how some of the results win in both sports or whatever was out there. But man, I'm ready to get into these topics.
For sure, definitely. So yeah, as I was continuing, the Phillies Braves series, which I said before, the series started, that this was going to be absolutely an amazing series. And you look at it, in game two, at least to start, and you're like, well, it looks like the Phillies are continuing in terms of how they did in game one. They're getting great pitching, in which they did. They really did a good job teeing off on Max Fried. And they got some big hits from Alec Boehm. They got JT Realmuto, an RBI. They got a homer actually from him, two-run home run. And then the biggest play of the game, I'd say, for the Braves to come back and win was Matt Olson hit a single in the bottom of the seventh. It just felt like that was a kind of a hit where maybe Zach Wheeler was kind of running out a little bit of gas. Obviously his pitch count was pretty decent, but they had the arms, and the Phillies bullpen was pitching really well. And I felt like they kind of pulled him a little bit too late. Bottom of the eighth inning. Also gets the, I think, also gets the hit. Darnell makes it the two-run home run, and now it is 4-2, I believe, or no, 3-2. Yeah, they were up 3-0. No, it's 3-2, and then Phillies, I think, got another run. It was 4-2 or whatever. I obviously trying to remember, but obviously the biggest moment was Austin Riley in the bottom of the eighth inning. One guy on, which was Acuna, and he hits a go-ahead two-run home run on a breaking pitch. And by the way, Brian Anderson was saying pretty much during the broadcast that Austin Riley wasn't hitting the fastball. He wasn't touching it. Phillies pitcher was pretty much blowing by fastballs. But on a full count, they decided to go off speed to him, and he didn't miss it. So give him a lot of credit there. And pretty much from what it looked like, the Phillies were about to go up 2-up. Obviously, splitting, of course, is massive. You're the away team, but the Phillies obviously, and then the top of the ninth, Harper started with a walk. Realmuto, I believe, flew out. That was one out, and then you had Castellanos up. And Iglesias has been known for blowing leads in the past, so I'm like, oh, this is far from over. Castellanos is a pretty good hitter, and he hit a really good. I mean, the ball that he hit, I thought it was going against the wall. I didn't think it had the chance to get out. I mean, I know a lot of people online were saying there was, but Michael Harris Jr. Had a really good jump and made a phenomenal catch. And Harper had a big enough lead where he had to try to go back to first, and he didn't make it. And the Braves were able to come back, and so essentially, pretty much the Phillies had from innings 1 through 7 pretty much all set in stone. But it just felt like they've blown a missed opportunity here. Now, obviously, it's only one game, but this is a team in the Braves where they pretty much looked dead for about 16 innings. And obviously, you knew for a fact that they weren't going to go away. They've been probably the best team in baseball all year. So that's what postseason baseball is about. You're going to obviously have your moments, and there's going to be times where you don't have your moments. And I've come, obviously, as a Sox fan for many years on both sides. So, James, we'll kind of start with this game because obviously this was the first game of the day, probably the best game that I might have seen specifically in terms of this back and forth action, in terms of it's just the postseason kind of baseball feels so far. And we are probably going to expect it, at some point. And this was a game that was really fun to watch. I didn't get the chance to watch the beginning because I was coming back from work, but pretty much the best parts of it to the end, it was pretty awesome to watch. So, what's your overall thoughts about this as we have Game 3 in Philly on Tuesday?
Yeah, you knew the Braves were not going to go down the same way they did on Game 1. You knew they were going to come back, and eventually it happened. And just showed that Zach Wheeler, really good pitcher. You knew that he was going to shine a little bit there. Once you get into that bullpen, it's kind of shaky. I know that could be anybody's bullpen, but, man, you saw Philly had the power, and then Atlanta right away in that eighth inning took it away just like that. And I kind of had that in the back of my head as I was watching that. I was like, watch, Austin Riley hit a home run to give the Braves a lead. It just seems like all year long they've been able to do that. The Braves have been able to either come back in games or take over, whatever the case was. So it's been like that all year long. But yeah, you mentioned the Michael Harris the second that catch. I couldn't believe it. That was amazing that happened, and it definitely it definitely saved a run. Depending if Harper had the better judgment on the base running. So now I'm interested to see, because at least Philly did their job and took one on the road. Now it's based on Atlanta to fight off the home crowd and to take not one, but if they can, two there and win the series. For me, I know I picked the Phillies. I just felt like they had something, but maybe the Braves are coming in and say, hey, we're not done yet. Our starting pitching I know isn't as available as it should be, but we still have the offense to do what we can. So it's going to be a great game 3 on Wednesday, I think.
Definitely. I can't wait to see the next game of it, just in terms of what's to come. Aaron Nola is going to be on the bump for the Phillies, I believe. And Bryce Elder, I think, is going to be on the bump for the Braves, because I think Charlie Morton's out for this series. So Elder had a pretty good year this year, so I'll be curious to see in terms of how he does. But it's going to be back at Citizens Bank Park, so it should be pretty electric there. So that series is now 1-1. Now we'll talk about the Diamondbacks-Dodgers series. Now, obviously, James, when we talked last, the Diamondbacks are up 1-0 in the series. And obviously, Game 2 happened tonight. We were kind of curious in terms of how the Dodgers would respond. We would be curious in terms of how the Diamondbacks would be able to keep the momentum, as getting the split, it just felt like it was just a bonus already for them. But with that being said, James, and obviously you picked the D-backs to go to the next round, it looks like your pick so far is looking really good. The Dodgers right now are having a hard time with starting pitching. They're not getting a lot of length, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, I think with Julio Urias, and then obviously the questions with Kershaw. Yeah, they had Bobby Miller today. He wasn't great. The start of games so far in this series has been completely by the Diamondbacks. It's been pretty incredible, and it's a team that I feel like, if people felt like you're getting slept on now, they shouldn't be. This is a team that I feel like is for real. They just don't have a lot of big time talent, but it's a team that I think that it's just really playing well and gelling at the right time. That's sometimes sports. That's sometimes just teams where, you come in the right time, you play well together. You might not be the best team on paper, but it's in terms about how you ride that type of momentum. And that's what I feel like the Diamondbacks had. They got a great starts from Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen tonight. They've gotten some great hitting with Luis Giglio Jr., Corbin Carroll, Christian Walker, just guys left and right. They're pretty much not trying to do too much. The Dodgers had plenty of opportunities tonight to, find a way to tie this game up. There are a couple of chances later on in the game. JD Martinez, my fellow Red Sox legend, he had a homer tonight for them. But Mookie Betts, I love Mookie to death, but he's really killing them this series. If he's not going, then the Dodgers really don't have a chance to win this series, because he's by far, I believe, their best offensive weapon. I mean, they have so many other ones. I mean, maybe in terms of just, he's obviously the best leadoff hitter, but probably the best hitter from this Freddie Freeman. He got hurt tonight. It looks like he's okay, and they have a lot of great talent on their team. Obviously, JD's great. Will Smith's good, but the Diamondbacks, I don't know. Maybe if it's playing in division, maybe it's something kind of where they're comfortable with, kind of with the Phillies Braves series. But the Diamondbacks they're no fear to the Dodgers right now, and I feel like if you're the Diamondbacks right now, you feel awesome. It's not even just take one, but two, and just really you feel like you have the momentum at its fullest. And obviously the Dodgers at this point in time are looking for answers to try to get back in this series. So what's your overall thoughts, James, on this series so far? And I don't obviously want to ask you if this series is over, but do you feel pretty good in terms of them being able to finish off the job?
I don't want to I don't want to
Oh
jinx
yeah,
it, but I think
that's why that's why
when
I
you
asked.
take
Yeah.
two on the road and you're pretty much the underdog, just when it comes to experience or when it comes to playoff experience, that's a really good thing. You feel confident about yourself and the others around you. That feels great. And you get that from the pitching staff of Arizona. They showed it tonight. I know the bullpen gave up, a couple of runs, but to able to hold them off was good because usually Dodgers are kind of like the Braves where they'll make the runs late in the innings if they're trailing. They'll make the wins possible, but maybe it takes a team like Arizona to make that happen. Where um, the good part is too with the Diamondbacks, this series so far they've scored early and often, and that feels good, and that deteriorates the opponent honestly, and it makes it get into their bullpen, and it makes them think twice about what they want to do in the future. Um, so they're in the driver's seat, no doubt about it. I hope they can take at least of course one out of the two, if not Wednesday, Thursday. But I'm hoping that crowd in Arizona. I'm hoping they show up because that's been known to be like a whenever the Dodgers come, it's always like a Dodger Stadium East in a way. So that's what
Mm.
Chase Field turns out to be. But I hope the fans. I hope there's support there. I know they weren't supposed to do much, but it'd be awesome to see that place sold out. I don't think it has been this year, but that'd be nice to see. And the Diamondbacks winning the series, it'd be awesome. So if they continue what they do, take advantage of the pitching that isn't there for LA. Looking at their rotation, or looking at the starters aren't even named yet, so that's going to be interesting. My guess, Diamondbacks would go out with what's his name, Zach Davies, and then Lance Lynn would probably get the start for LA. He's been known to give up a lot of home runs, so we'll see that for Wednesday.
Yeah, and they also have Brandon Pfaadt, who was the game one
Oh
starter
yeah,
last series in the wild card against the Brewers, and he's not terrible, but he's just really young. So obviously, we'll kind of say specific in terms of um, where they kind of go. But James, as you obviously were mentioning, and looks like we lost him. Looks like he is coming back on. But obviously, what I was just mentioning, James, is this kind of has a similar feel to the Dodgers Padres series last year, where I felt like the
yeah,
Dodgers were kind of the team is kind of the favorite, and the Padres obviously, it's division type series, and the Padres able to kind of play better baseball than the Dodgers last year, and you're kind of seeing kind of a similar field, but with the Diamondbacks this year. Now I didn't expect that the Diamondbacks would take both games in Dodger Stadium. I don't think many people did, but um, gotta give them their flowers. I mean, it's a pretty really good team right now. It's a team that's really riding high. And we'll see in terms of where things go. I mean, like you mentioned, that they have a lot of Dodger fans in Arizona. Obviously, they're obviously not going to be too thrilled in terms of how things go, but uh, yeah, time will tell in terms of where that team can kind of get back on track or not, because they still have a lot of talent. So it's not over until it's over, they say. So, but yeah, the Diamondbacks are up 2-0 in the series over the Dodgers, and then the Phillies and Braves series is tied. So both of those series are going to shift to Tuesday. Let's talk about the American League Series, James. Obviously, the first I'm going to talk back on Saturday. The Houston Astros are up 1-0 in their series against the Twins. Game two was yesterday, and the Minnesota Twins were able to bounce back off of a masterful pitching performance from Pablo Lopez, their ace. He pitched 7 innings in this one, no runs. They did give up a home run to Jordan Alvarez in the bottom of the eighth inning, but Framber Valdez wasn't great. Their offense got some production out of Carlos Correa. It seems like he's turned into the villain against his old team, which has been really awesome to see. Kyle Farmer hit a home run. They have Jorge Polanco's done great. That Twins team, I'll tell you, man, uh, they're giving the Astros a little bit of trouble here. They might give this. I don't think that they're going to win the series, but it's going to be a probably to the end. I'm not saying obviously the full 5, 6 games or whatever, but it's going to be interesting. Now they were able to take one in Houston, which is very tough to do, and now they go to Minnesota, which I feel like that crowd's going to be absolutely incredible there. A team that really hasn't been playing a lot of playoff baseball for many years, and obviously playing against Houston. So well, let's kind of see specifically in terms of how that goes, but. The Twins really were able to find a way to get one, which they really needed, and it really was because of their pitching, because of the masterful performance of Pablo Lopez. So, what's your overall thoughts on this one, James? And how do you feel if like your both teams right now? Because the Astros obviously took the 1-0 series lead. They felt like they were the better team, and then game two was really a lot of the Twins. So. Um, how do you feel in game three? How do you feel like the tides are going to turn there?
Well, if you're the Twins, you've done the job where you took one on the road and you're coming home and to a crowd that's really behind you. That's going to be a great sight to see at Target Field. I don't think that's ever really happened at Target Field. Maybe when it first opened, when they face the Yankees or whatever. But this crowd is alive and well because of the youth of this team. That's really key there. For the Astros, all they can say is, "Hey, we have experience. We could do it on the road. We could do it at home." But man, once you get to their bullpen, it's kind of a struggle, and you've seen all year long pretty much with the Astros there. Oh man, I really thought game two, even though they had Lopez, I thought, man, they have Valdez, the Astros, so they should be fine. But man, they really proved me wrong. Did the Twins? I thought they were just going to go away and it was going to be over with. But they really showed something on Sunday, especially Pablo Lopez. I know he's gained the notoriety after the game. But looking at they got Sonny Gray going against Christian Javier. Man, that's going to be a great pitching matchup there.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray's been lights out this year. It's going to be fun. I honestly don't know how it's going to go. Maybe the Twins, win there, and then Astros force a game 5, and who knows what will happen there. But I'm going to say the Twins win game 3.
Yeah, we'll kind of see in terms of who wins game 3, game 4. I think if you're the Astros, you just take one there, and I feel like, they have home field advantage from there. So, I think that the Twins could probably take one. That's pretty much the way that they can do it is just take one and then just hope for the best. They at least shown that they can go into Houston, at least win a game there. So we'll see in terms of how that series goes. Now let's obviously shift to the final series of the divisions round, and that's the Texas Rangers and the Baltimore Orioles. James, the Texas Rangers pretty much did kind of what the Arizona Diamondbacks did. Go into the home ballpark and take not only one but 2 wins, and really force the opponent to try to get back in the series with their backs against the wall. And the Texas Rangers right now, James, look like just the team in the American League East outside of the Astros that are the team to beat. The Orioles, I feel like yes, they could have a chance to come back. They've shown it. Heck, they were down by quite a bit. I think 9-2 on Sunday. Mitch Garver had a grand slam. That Rangers team is just hitting. They're really just hitting on all cylinders. A lot of runs early and often. Josh Jung, Dolis Garcia, Leonid Tavares, Jonah Heim, Corey Seager, obviously. And then they're getting pretty good pitching. Montgomery pitched okay on Sunday, but yeah, going up 2-0 is obviously massive. And for Baltimore, they obviously have to face. I'm trying to remember in terms of who they face in game 3. I know Kramer's, I believe, going for them in game 3.
And Bobby going for Texas.
And yeah, Evaldi. Yeah, so that's really who. If you're the Rangers, I mean, you feel pretty good because Evaldi's a really big game
Hmm.
pitch in the playoffs. And they're obviously feeding off their home crowds. So it should be a really good game three. And we'll kind of see in terms of the Orioles can make their way kind of back in the series. You know, it only takes one. But obviously, if you're Texas, I feel like you want to try to shut it down early and do what you can to uh, get your kind of your way ready for the ALCS coming up pretty soon. So, yeah, what's your overall thoughts, James, of if you're the Rangers being up now 2-0, and obviously if you're Baltimore, how do you feel like they can get back in the series?
Okay, if you're Baltimore, it's one of those sad stories where, man, it's your first time at this, and you're kind of going, headstrong into it. But then you run into an offensive juggernaut like Texas is, and that's unfortunate. You haven't really played anybody like that in a series this year. That's unfortunate, but it happens when somebody plays for the first time in the postseason. You're going to run into somebody that you really can't control. You try to, but they outslug you, and that's what's going on. Maybe the Orioles make a game of it, but I think Texas sweeps the series, unfortunately, and yeah, moves on, and maybe they'll have some extra days off depending on how long the other series goes in the American League. And for the Orioles, you just have to outslug them somehow, and remember it's a huge loss without Felix Batista. Cano can do so much, and Webb can do so much, but man, when you're missing a missile like like Batista, that's really unfortunate. So, man, I just think Texas sweeps them.
I still have some hope with the Orioles. You know, they've shown at least in game two that they came back and made it tough on Texas. They made it a series. Uh, Obviously, I think that the team that's really obviously you kind of realize too, James, is the team in the wild cards really kind of played a little bit more loose. They feel like they have some of the momentum going to the division series. I know obviously the Braves won today, but some of the teams that have kind of waited a little bit longer, maybe it's been a little bit more on rust. So you look at a team like the Orioles, they obviously kind of wait a little bit, but still no excuses obviously for a lot of the teams. They obviously have played to get here. And it's really in terms of each of these series in terms of who performs the best. And right now, the D-backs perform better than the Dodgers. The Twins Astros series is obviously we're now up and down because it's a toss-up, 1-1. Same with the Phillies and Braves. And then the Rangers obviously have performed better than the Orioles right now. So we'll have to see specifically, James, in terms of how game threes go. So obviously, for those that are tuning in, the AL division games, game threes are today and tonight. On the East Coast, it's now Tuesday. Uh, and then in the West Coast, it is uh, Wednesday.
Yeah, 44.
So I what's that?
No, 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 no.
Yeah, Wednesday. So times on the games Wednesday. Let's see. Oh, there's actually going to be game three and four. Okay, so it's going to be everybody gets a chance to play on Wednesday. So right now, game four of the Astros Twins will be at 2:07. Braves Phillies game three at 5:07. Game four of Orioles Rangers at 7:07. And then Dodgers D-backs be 9:07. So we get a lot of postseason baseball on Wednesday. So it should be a lot of fun. And we'll probably have a show this week, kind of later on the week. So we might be kind of ready, James, for some teams to get to the AL and NLCS. We'll obviously talk about that when the time comes from there. I do want to obviously talk a little bit, James, before we get into some football, because obviously outside of the postseason stuff, there hasn't been kind of like a lot of other news right now. But my Boston Red Sox, they made some more firings today. They fired their pitching coach, Dave Bush, and they also fired their third base coach, Carlos Fables. So I obviously some moves that really need to be worked on and be done with. They're long overdue. I mean, our pitching staff really needs a rehaul. free haul for sure. And our base running has been a problem for the last couple of years, and Fadeways has been really underperforming. So, there's just a couple other moves specifically that teams, my team specifically is making. There's a lot, obviously, teams that are on the playoffs right now that are trying to make, decisions, I guess. And so, I mean, obviously, they are expected to keep their heading coach, Pete Fatsi, which I'm a little disappointed about because I'm not a big fan of him. But, yeah, I mean, if you're the Red Sox, obviously, it seems like they're going to try to, change some stuff up a little bit, which is awesome. Look, in terms of the Angels, James, obviously, I don't know if there's been any kind of latest news in terms of them, but the Red Sox, obviously, they made some moves today. So, let me just take a look and see if there's anything else really in baseball as of right now, outside of kind of the postseason, that there's any content I would want to mention. Okay, so I will mention this. I would like to send my condolences out to Jim Poole. He passed away at 57 after a bout with ALS that he was diagnosed in 2021. Poole played for 8 MLB clubs in his 11-year career, primarily with the Giants, the Orioles, but was well known as playing with the Cleveland Indians, or now the Guardians. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that, James, but obviously,
No.
condolences to Jim's family. Obviously, really tough stuff there. Yeah, I mean, there's not really else. I mean, obviously, more of the off-season stuff, but we're probably going to talk more about that as the time comes. So, with that being said, let's go to football now. And obviously, we'll see in terms of Isaiah will join us for tonight. But James, obviously, your Vegas Raiders play tonight. They played against the Packers. We'll talk a little bit about that game before we get into our winners and losers from Week 5, and maybe get a little bit ahead to Week 6, obviously. And so, James, I'll go to you, my friend. Your Vegas Raiders were able to pull out a win tonight over the Packers by the final score of. Let me just get the final
17-13.
17-13. Thank you. So the Raiders go to 2-3. The Packers they dropped to 2-3, so they're going to be both the same record. Jordan Love was pretty erratic in this game. A little surprised. I had the Packers winning this one beforehand, but the Raiders defense was able to get 3 takeaways. Something that the Raiders have had a hard time with in the past is getting takeaways. But they were able to do it tonight, including 1 interception at the end of the game. From trying to remember. So that Spillane had 2. Oh, okay. Amik Robertson. He had the game-winning
Big one at the
interception. Big, obviously the massive one at the end. Which, if you're the Raiders, James, I mean, they almost blew it because of Josh McDaniels once again. That 4th and 3, decided to go for the 50-yard field goal, which obviously I can understand about with Daniel Carlson because he has a great leg. But instead, he missed the field goal. And then you have about 1 minute 30 seconds left, and you get a chance for the Packers to go down and probably win the game. And the defense for your Raiders, James, is able to make some big plays tonight. So, give them credit. And now, obviously, they get to take on my Patriots, which is a team I will mention a little bit because it's going to be worse than yours, James. And my Patriots are a lot worse than you, so of course it can't be as bad. So, but yeah, good one for you guys, James. And any other thoughts you want to mention? I also want to get into the stats of the Vegas. I did mention the Packers. So Jimmy G, 22 of 31, a touchdown and a pick. Could be worse. He had 208. Josh Jacobs got in the end zone. And then Jacoby Myers had a really good game, 7 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. I'd love to have him on my team right now, but whatever. And then Devontae Adams had 4 catches in his reunion against his former team. So I'll go to you now. What's your overall thoughts on this game? Your Raiders obviously coming out on top on a 17-13 victory.
Okay, they got lucky. Simple as that. If it was a better quarterback and a better team, they would have lost the game that they were facing. Good that Jacobs found the end zone, but I was hoping he would have did a little more. Then Adams must have been double covered, or a little bit of zone defense there. It was good to see Myers get in the end zone and have 7 receptions. I mean, he was doing that in the first game before he got
Mhm.
concussed. In that game, but he had some key third down catches like he did in the first game. Um, Michael Meyer finally
Mhm.
got some catches, but that was early in the game. Then they didn't go back to him. That was unfortunate. I really wanted to see more from Meyer, but hopefully going forward we will see more. They just kept doing those screen passes to Jacobs because the running wasn't really there after a while. And Jimmy did well enough, although he did have one interception that kind of hurt things. But yeah, going back to Jordan Love, he had one pick over the middle. I think it was his first one that was really bad. I mean, he threw it
Oh,
right
I
to the
saw that. Yeah.
linebacker. I mean, it's just something you're gonna learn from, but you hope you
Mhm.
don't see it again. And that was Speedline who got actually 2 interceptions, but that one was right to him. And then, man, going to to those stats there. Yeah, AJ Dillon at first he was running really well. He ended up scoring a touchdown. I think the first drive, first 3 plays, it was all Dillon. 4 yard gain, and a 2 yard gain for a first down. And then I think they went on to score. But Watson had 3 catches for 91 yards. But other from that, they're missing the other receiver as well there. Uh, but yeah, Jordan Love, I think, was probably the story of the game because I think Packer fans are saying, "Man, okay, we're facing one of the worst defenses ever. You could do." I always have that feeling with the Raiders, like any team can do anything against them and get away with it. They can throw downfield, they can run the ball up the middle, they can do anything they want. They're that exposed. But obviously, Jordan Love, he, man, I don't know what it is. He's got to make better reads. Uh, just, just do what he did. Don't do what he did tonight and have those interceptions. I know he was going for it all at the end of the game there, and if you closely look at the interception that Amik Robertson had, it almost slipped out of his hands and went right to Christian Watson. That would have been a
Mhm.
touchdown for the Packers. It was that close, but luckily the rubber of the gloves, held on to that football. It was something you don't really see from the Raiders, a clutch defensive play at the end of the game. That was really odd to see. So I was happy about the win, but I know they're fortunate because that never ever happens. And um, for the Packers, I guess they got to do some soul searching. They got to figure out when Aaron Jones will be back available. You could tell they were really
Mhm.
missing him uh, throughout the year so far. You could tell they're really missing him. I know AJ Dillon, he finally had a semi breakout game, but you need that thunder and lightning, especially if Jordan Love is, making up for it by throwing the interceptions. You need him to like throw those screens to Jones, like he's been able to do in the past, and Jones making something out of it. But they did find their tight end. I forget his name, but number 81, he had some clutch catches in the beginning. But other from that, let me find that dude's name. Oh yeah, Josiah DeGara. So yeah, that dude from Cincinnati, he was really killing the Raiders at first. He was catching some passes for first downs. But yeah, luckily the Raiders came out with the win. And again, Jordan Love probably does need to do some improvement. And it was something that you knew it wasn't going to be an easy transition. From Favre to Rodgers to Love. You just knew it wasn't going to be easy. There's going to be some growing pains, and it showed tonight.
Yeah, definitely. The Packers obviously are kind of feeling that post Rodgers era. There's gonna be a lot of growing pains with a very young quarterback. And obviously he's gonna have games like this. So before Packer fans start to switch up on him. Just remember that he's still young. And there's going to be some games like this, and time will tell in terms of where things go with Jordan Love, because I still think that there's some left. But congrats to your Raiders, James. You guys, like I mentioned, will play us, and we'll maybe talk about that in a little bit. Let's go through the final scores from Week 5 here. We'll start with my game because obviously I'll get the worst part off my chest, and I can talk about the winners and losers because they're for sure my loser again. The New Orleans Saints defeated the Patriots 34-0. The Jacksonville Jaguars won 25-20 in London. Really good game. Jags go to 3-2. The Bills go to 3-2. The Bills seem to have some problems with the Jaguars, James. And I probably should have known that before I picked in this game. But really good game. We could talk about some of that later on. The Falcons were able to edge the Texans in this game, 21-19. Desmond Ridder had a pretty good game, 28-37 for a touchdown, but 329 yards. CJ Stroud didn't even play that bad either. 20-35 with a touchdown and score. Dalton Schultz found the end zone, and they've actually used Kyle Pitts this week, James. The Falcons did for once, and he went off. He had 7 receptions for 87 yards. Comes to show in terms of how much you can actually use good players, right? Yep. So the Texans, Younghoe Koo kicked a 37-yard game-winning field goal with 2 seconds left to win it for the Falcons. The Lions, they continued their hot streak. They defeated the Carolina Panthers 42-24. Bryce Young 25-41, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. Jared Goff continues to be really underrated this year. 20-28, 3 touchdowns, no picks. David Montgomery's been awesome for the Lions there. 19 attempts for a touchdown, 109 yards. And how about Sam Laporta, James? The tight end that the Lions have had. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down. They get somebody to pretty much take over. And he had 3 receptions only, but 2 touchdowns and 47 yards. Lions seem to be that clear-cut favorite, James, in terms of that division right now. And I picked, obviously, them to win it when the time came. All right. Moving on, the Colts defeated the Titans. They won 23-16. Anthony Richardson did get hurt in this one. There's been reports out there, according to Donnie Rossini from The Athletic, that he's scheduled to be out 4 to 6 weeks, which would be a massive blow for the Colts because he is by far their best weapon. Really sucks to see. Really up-and-coming, young, great quarterback as a rookie. And for obviously that to go down, obviously they won, but at a cost. Richardson was 9-12 before he got hurt. Gardner Minshew came in. He's done okay since he's came in with the Colts. He's 11-14, 155, no touchdown, but no interceptions. Zach Moss had 2 touchdowns in this game. He's been really good. Even with Jonathan Taylor there. Jonathan Taylor had 6 rushes for only 18 yards in his debut with the team, but he's probably kind of a really low for him, at least to get himself back to the NFL field. The Miami Dolphins, James, I predicted it that they won by a couple scores, and they did just that. 31-16 over the Giants. Daniel Jones got hurt in this one, but the Giants are still really struggling, James, for sure. They even got 2 interceptions on Tua Tagovailoa. Tua had 2 touchdowns, though, 308. How about Devon Achane, running back? He's been absolutely going off this year. What's that?
Achane,
thank you. I said acne. Achane, yes.
No, he had it first different, and then once he showed out against that Bronco game, he's like, oh no, all of a sudden it's Achane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so he obviously done great so far this year. He's had a touchdown every game besides the game against the Patriots. So I guess that's a silver lining for us. But Tyreek Hill, another big one, 8 receptions, 181 yards, and a touchdown. Dolphins obviously respond. They go to 4-1 on the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, James, they edged out a low-scoring 17-10 win over the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, pretty ineffective, 22 of 38 for 236, but he did only throw an interception, no touchdowns. Kenny Pickett, did all right. 18 to 32, 224, but obviously the touchdown he had was right at the end to George Pickens. So a big play for the Steelers. Steelers had a strip sack, I believe, by TJ Watt. So their defense was able to respond after a really tough week against the Texans. So each team is now at 3-2. The Philadelphia Eagles go to 5-0. They defeated the LA Rams 23 to 14. Cooper Kupp had 8 receptions in the loss for 18 yards and coming back. Welcome back, Cooper. Obviously, really effective there. Matthew Stafford didn't even play that bad either. He had 21 to 37, 2 touchdowns, 222 passing yards. Jalen Hurts, 3 out of 3, 25 to 38, touchdown and a pick. He did have a rushing touchdown. Dallas Goedert had a touchdown as well. How about Cincinnati Bengals, James? We did pick the Cardinals both before the game. You know, the way that the Bengals have been playing, it's been really sloppy. And obviously, it feels like that in this one that Joe Burrow kind of got himself back on track to becoming the Joe Burrow that we're kind of accustomed to seeing. So give him a lot of credit because I do like Joe Burrow a lot. He was 36 to 46, 317 yards, 3 touchdowns, which obviously is very good. He did throw a pick. But how about Jamar Chase, James? I know that he was having some comments last week in terms of he'd be always open, and he had an absolute he had an absolute phenomenal game. 15 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and was close to getting over to 200 yards. He obviously is their best player, even without T. Higgins, James. Joe Burrow and company was able to muster quite a bit, and Joe Mixon had 81 yards as well too. Josh Dobbs wasn't as effective as he's been the last couple of weeks. 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. Moving on here, the New York Jets. They were able to get a massive win in Denver against the Denver Broncos. We'll talk about the Denver Broncos, James, a little bit because they do have some news in terms of their overall feel of the team. So I do want to talk about that in a little bit. But Zach Wilson wasn't obviously as good as last week, but the running game. I mean, if you put a Denver defense, James, and you have a running back that's on the other team, you might as well just put him in fantasy. I called Breece Hall to have a massive game in this one against the Broncos defense, which can't stop the run for shit. And Breece Hall had a field day. 22 attempts, including a long touchdown run, 177 yards. Russell Wilson, 20 of 31, 2 touchdowns, no picks, but it did have a costly fumble that went for return for a touchdown at the end of the game. So a lot of really ugly stuff there. Jets go to 2-3, Broncos go to 1-4. The Kansas City Chiefs were able to edge out the Minnesota Vikings 27-20. Patrick Mahomes had a pretty good game this one, 31 of 41, 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce did leave the game early, came back, and he scored a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco also had a touchdown. On the losing end, Kirk Cousins, pretty decent one, 29 of 47 with 2 scores, 284. Jordan Addison had a touchdown in this one. Justin Jefferson got hurt, and according to Ian Rappaport, he is a long shot to play next week. The San Francisco 49ers, James, continue to play as the best team in football, 42 to 10. How about them Cowboys? They completely were obviously really high through, killing us, but I'm just like, they're going to fall back to earth for sure. Dak Prescott a touchdown, but 3 interceptions, only 153 yards. Really still have the continued struggles against that Niners defense. Brock Purdy has still been doing it right. Mr. Irrelevant, James, I believe still has not lost in the regular season. Every season he's gotten there as a starter, which has been pretty incredible. 17 of 24, 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns to George Kittle, including also one to Kyle Juszczyk. And then obviously, James, we talked about your Raiders and Packer game. The teams that were on bye this week, because there were the first week for the byes, the Browns, the Chargers, the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers. So without further ado, James, let's go to our winners and losers from this week. All right. For me, let's go to the winners. I would say the winners for me is the Cincinnati Bengals. They really needed this win badly, and they obviously were able to win kind of in the way that they've been accustomed to, at least in the last couple of years. Joe Burrow had a really good game in this one, so they really needed this one. And my other one was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, they came off a blowout loss to the Texans. It's a really tight game. Baltimore's obviously a really good team, and it's in their place, but they really have a pretty low scoring game, and obviously they needed it badly. My losers were obviously the Patriots, and I'll talk about them after you obviously get through the winners and losers because it is absolutely awful. And then the Cowboys. Cowboys are my losers for this week. They got their absolute doors blown off. Yeah, so those are my losers of the week. How about your winners and losers, James?
The winners, shoot, I want to agree with you, because, but I'm gonna just say Chicago. I think because of the passing of Dick Buckus, despite any of the players knowing who that is, um, just showing out offensively and then defensively, because the Commanders can score some points, but they only scored 20. Bears were able to score 40. I think they went half and half on the points, so that was really good to see. Um, so yeah, I think the winner was Chicago. I'm not trying to name one that you have. I'm trying to spice it up, but yeah, I think Chicago, just because of that. I don't want to say the Patriots because I think you kind of figured they would lose. I don't think that bad though, and I know you'll get into it. I think the one loser I'll probably have will be the Cowboys, just because of the hype of that game was like everything. It was, oh my God, the Cowboys are back. They're going to show tonight that they're going to rule the NFC again, and they're going to give the Niners their first loss, and everything like that. Everything I heard, everything that wasn't. And it was pretty satisfying, although it's the 49ers, but it was pretty satisfying to see that because it just shut up a lot of people that had the Cowboys, in the championship game and then in the Super Bowl, like saying they're back. Um, I just think Dak regressed. That's why I put him as a loser,
Yeah.
because everybody wants to crown Dak, as an elite quarterback. But I know he's facing a great defense, but eventually you're going to have to face someone great, with the Eagles and then 49ers in their schedule. Yeah, I think the Cowboys and their fans and their fans are the biggest losers of Week 5.
Yeah. And I'll talk about the Patriots now because I'll have the time to. Um, and obviously since I've been here, and I talked a little bit with Isaiah, I think, off the air in terms of just by text message, but man, and I was thinking about this for a lot today. Obviously, the Patriots, of course, are coming off two of the biggest losses in Bill Belichick's tenure in his career. The biggest blowouts. They've been outscored 72-3 in the last two
Ouch.
games. Um, it's been something where, I mean, listen, ever since Brady walked, of course, it was going to be obviously, and there's going to be obviously some really tough times going through, which obviously I felt fine with. But, um, coming into the season, I thought that this team would at least be competitive. I really did. I didn't think they were going to be obviously great. Obviously didn't think they were going to be amazing. But in a really tough schedule, I thought they'd at least, show some, you know, be competitive. But what I saw, obviously the Cowboys game, they got blown out. It's what it is. Dallas is one of the best teams in football. So even though they lost, they got blown out against San Fran. So obviously you kind of have, I saw it. You had the Saints, which obviously have a great defense, and then you have the Raiders, and I'm like, girl, maybe that they can kind of get themselves back on track. They're 1-3. They lost, yesterday, but they were made it close. There were some good signs. I'm like, okay, it's still not great, but it's like you kind of maybe build something. James, this is by far the lowest that I've ever felt as a fan. And it's been crazy because I'm 27 years old, and I know that there's many other fans that have probably been like, well, You're fortunate. You're lucky. And I am lucky. I was blessed for most of my childhood to pretty much not feel a lot in terms of how people have felt. Um, but I just didn't think it would go down this bad, really. And people want to say, well, it's Mac Jones, it's Bill Belichick, put Zappy in, put Cunningham, do this, do that. And all I'm going to say is this, James, is it's a mentally broken team. There's no way specifically, James, that you can just completely turn this thing around and it's going to be right away and it's going to be fixed early. There's just it's going to take a couple year type process. And I know some people are like, well, let's just go out and tank the rest of the year. And the Patriots, Bill Belichick, they don't want to tank. It would really, I'd be eye popping. Um, Now, yeah, obviously you could say, well, Mac is not the answer. Well, the offensive line that's in front of is also a criminal offense. It is one of the worst offensive lines in football. They have no outside perimeter guys around. That if you look at least you have the Raiders, James. You have Devontae Adams. You have Josh Jacobs. You at least have some guys. You look at the Broncos. They have Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. The Patriots, yeah, they've got Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, but he's usually number two. Kendrick Bourne, Ramondre Stevenson, one of the best running backs this year in football. He's not even getting anything going. It's just pretty much just like I don't even want to get upset. I don't even want to get mad. It's like it's just kind of an empty feeling. It's pretty much like you just kind of thinking, well, where do you go from here? And people, in Boston sports right now, because obviously I heard a lot of it today in terms of a lot of the criticism of Bill Belichick, in terms of like you got to kind of realize specific in terms of this guy still as a coach is one of the greatest ever. He essentially, 6 Super Bowls with the greatest quarterback ever. But the thing about it is time has to come to an end at some point. Time essentially his essentially right now with Bill is there's the Bill as the GM and there's the Bill as the head coach. And the Bill as the GM is just not effective anymore because he essentially was able to overcome and be fine as a GM when Brady was there because he was able to kind of overcome a lot of the deficiencies. But now he's in a position where he didn't help Mac Jones pretty much leak any potential. He didn't help anything with the offensive line. The defense is already missing two of their best defensive players. And their schedule was not easy at all. So he just put everything kind of together, and it's going to be a lot of changes this offseason. They're actually top fifth, I believe, in cap space. So, in terms of kind of turning things around, you at least kind of have to start somewhere. Kind of have to figure out, well, they're probably going to be in the market to draft or trade a quarterback. So the Patriots go out and make a trade to get a guy like a Kyler Murray because he might be out there and be available. I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't hate it. But the thing about the draft this year is they have a lot of good quarterbacks out there. And, you look at obviously Caleb Williams being the start. You got Drake May, you got Michael Penix Jr., got Bo Nix. But, James, it doesn't matter who you have out there, quarterback, if you don't have a competent offensive line. That's pretty much where you start, and it's just an absolute disaster. I mean, the Saints' defense is very good. But, I mean, they only gave Mac Jones, I believe, 1.2 seconds to essentially to try to throw the football. I mean, that's it's like, and Dan Orlovsky had a tweet today. He said the Patriots offense, he just saw in terms of the film because there's a lot of film on them. He's just like borderline, hard to watch, regardless of who you put out there. So I was grateful, man. We had a great run. Probably the best run, probably the best one any football fan ever encompassed. But the time obviously goes. It's obviously a tough time. We're probably now the worst team in football after being probably the best team in football for the last 20 years. So it's just a very weird feeling, uncharted feeling. So and people are just saying, well, even a tough schedule, like maybe they can maybe kind of win. I could definitely kind of see some wins in there. James, with this way this team is this year, no game is even easy to win. There's not even like potentially, well, it's a gimme. Even your Raiders, James, like I wouldn't be surprised if you guys win. I mean, Max Crosby got a really good defensive line. Our offensive line is probably still not going to be great. Um, the team is just a mess, James. It really is. I mean, I know you've talked about your Raiders being a mess, but between figuring out a broken quarterback because he does an offensive line you trust, no guys around him offensively at receiver that are just breakaway players. Defensively, they just don't have anything going. And I want to be positive. I really do. But I also am a realist. And what I'm seeing right now is a bad product on the field. Another thing too, James, you have to realize that I've seen is it's a full team. It's not just one player. It's a full team type of thing. And people want to say, move on from Mac Jones, move on from Bill Belichick. It's a team thing. This is a team sport. And yes, I get it. Quarterback is the main, part of your team. You have to have a good quarterback. You got to have a good coach. And you obviously have to have a lot of other things to go right for you. But it doesn't matter specifically if you're not getting the buy-in and if you're not having the right scheme to make this happen. So I obviously had a lot I had to say there, but I think that's pretty much it what I had to say. Yeah,
Ben, let
so
me
it's what it is.
ask you right quick. Do you think Belichick should give up the role as GM and just focus on being the head coach? Do you think it's time?
So I've had a lot of people ask me that. I've had a lot of people ask me, do you feel like Bill should just, move on from his GM duties? Personally, I think he should. I think that the biggest thing is though, does he want to? Because does Bill feels like he has a lot of power? I feel like he still feels like at this point in time, still he has a lot of power. He doesn't. He's such a stubborn type of guy that it takes a lot for him to be like, okay, we're going to move you into another thing after having so much power for so long. It's almost just like if he wants to move on, James, I feel like he's going to just retire. I think he's just going to be like, because it's going to be just coming pretty much at a part of time. I mean, I remember with Brady, they were talking about in terms of Brady. Do you move on from him in 2019? Kraft and Belichick probably were butted heads a little bit there. So I just don't know. I really don't. I don't think that they're going to do it. I would love to see it. I think a lot of our fans would see it, but I personally think that the team won't do it. I don't think that there are. I don't think that they have the balls to make it happen, which I think is a massive issue.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's all bad. There's no. I'm at least being a little bit hopeful. I mean, if they do tank, it would be the first time ever the Patriots maybe tank in their history. It might. I mean, and especially in a Bill Belichick type team. This was essentially, James. I thought, like I said, I thought that this team would be competitive. I didn't think that they would be great. They had obviously a really tough schedule. But I was even there in Boston's, radio today. They just said even with a very limited roster, they didn't think it was going to get this bad. They just didn't. They're obviously they're in terms of bottom in, I think touchdowns, passing yards.
Feels like that.
Defense isn't doing as well. Special teams has not been great. Pretty much three areas where Bill Belichick essentially encompasses. The do your job motto, that's all gone. There's no buy-in. Offensively, it's broken. So I could kind of have some things quickly, and obviously we won't talk about the Patriots for the rest of the show. So obviously, but I think really what some things they can maybe try to focus on is to pretty much. I wish I had an answer. I really did. Maybe trade for a receiver at the deadline and maybe kind of figure out in terms of by next year we keep kind of maybe have maybe kind of get yourself kind of ready for a. Because think about it, James. They are top 5 in cap space, so they have the cap space. So they got to at least use it for something. They really do.
Mm-hmm. Offensive.
I don't know. I don't know where it starts. I really don't. And
Left tackle.
it's everywhere, James. It really is. And we have Isaiah here. Thanks obviously for joining. We're kind of now in the part of the show, Isaiah, where it's pretty much talking a lot about my team right now in terms of the massive struggles. But yeah, I mean, defensively, offensively, special teams, coaching. And the thing about it, James, too, and Isaiah, is Bill Belichick looks absolutely defeated. He essentially looks like a guy that he has no answers. And one of my best friends from college was in the game yesterday, too. And me and him were talking after the game was over. And he told me, he said, this is the Patriots I don't know. He said he left the game early. Um, it's sad. It really is sad. I mean, I really just in terms of the standard this team's had for so long. And like I said, I didn't expect them this year to be great. I didn't even expect them to be amazing, but I didn't expect it to be the worst. I mean, they're worse than they're the same record as the Broncos, but I think that we're worse than the Broncos. I think that we're worse than the Giants. We're worse than a lot of teams that we shouldn't be worse than. So it's really, really bad to see. They're a broken team. And I just really don't know where things go from here. But Isaiah, thanks for coming on. I know obviously we talked out the air in terms of you maybe not making it tonight. So obviously we do appreciate you coming on for a little bit. How are you doing?
Yeah, guys, sorry I couldn't make it the beginning of the show. I was on another program, so that just finished. So glad that I'm able to be on. Hopefully my internet's a little bit better than it was on that program. But yeah, I'm doing good. Ben, sorry about your Patriots. I watched that entire debacle from start to finish. That was like the game on at the airport yesterday when I was at work. I didn't have a choice but to watch it. The bartender wouldn't even change it to a different channel. So we were just watching that game the whole time, and sadly, I want to say I'm surprised, but I'm not really, because just think about your off season. I mean, you spent the entire off season being involved in all these free agents, and then not to land any of them, just to land a washed up Ezekiel Elliott. And you look at the weapons, like Juju Smith-Schuster went out. That was your biggest signing. He went out yesterday with an injury, and now there's reports that are saying that he might be either done for the year or miss a couple of weeks because of the injury he suffered. So if you don't have him against the Raiders, I mean, the Raiders look good today. I mean, I know James probably disagrees with me, but watching that Raiders Packers game, I know I haven't watched a lot of Raiders action this season because I've been working while they've been on. But when I watch the Raiders, I was just thinking, like, I don't know what my guys James and my guy Martin Garcia are thinking. I mean, the Raiders look like a playoff team out there on the football field, and Josh McDaniels looks like a good offensive coach. But I mean, the Patriots, like I told you yesterday, Ben, I think the Patriots, they absolutely have to win next week against the Raiders. If you don't win against the Raiders and you lose to the Raiders, my prediction early about the Patriots starting 1-7, that's absolutely going to come true. Because if you lose to the Raiders, you'll be 1-5, and your next two games are in Miami against the Dolphins and against the Buffalo Bills. And it's going to be like, if you're getting boat raced against the Saints, imagine what the Dolphins and the Bills are going to do to you guys. So I think it's an absolute must win. But I mean, the NFL yesterday, there was a lot of surprises, or not a lot of surprises. Chiefs beating the Vikings, not a big surprise. I think Minnesota, Ben, will honestly start the same record as you guys. And then I think the biggest surprise of the night, though, was the Niners absolutely destroying the Cowboys. And I don't know if you guys talked about that game, but
we obviously kind of went through the scores, but we didn't get through. Well, I mean, we got through our winners and losers. So obviously, as you mentioned, now you can get through your winners and losers if you want to.
Yeah. My biggest winner on it. Go ahead, James.
No, I didn't think it was a surprise. I think I came on a couple shows and I was like, I just think it's going to be a blowout. Cowboys just don't have what the Niners have. And, Purdy's playing great. Everybody's playing great. Kittle got some touches. So yep. I just knew Cowboys had no damn chance.
All right, so I'm gonna get to my winners and losers. My biggest winners from this week. Before I go all in on the Niners, I'm gonna just name a couple of teams that aren't Niners, but uh, the Jags. I mean, the Jags absolutely needed to beat the
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills. They needed to beat them not just for the record, but they needed to beat them to basically tell the world, hey, I know we've struggled the first couple of weeks. I know we haven't looked great, but we can still hang with these top teams, and we're a top contender in the AFC. And Jacksonville needed to win. And I think from start to finish, I thought Jacksonville controlled that game from start to finish. And I thought that Trevor Lawrence, he didn't look great for the first. He didn't look great for the first half of the game, but he really did turn it on towards the second half of that game. And that Jags defense, I mean, they played really well. They played really well. They got a couple of interceptions. They had a lot of fumbles that were forced. It was a messy game overall, but credit goes to that Jags D. I mean, that Jags D is one of the more underrated and untalked about part of that team that I think a lot of people need to start focusing on, because they do look like a really good unit. And Lawrence is gonna be fine moving forward, but I think yesterday's game was more about Travis Etienne. I mean, that guy was lit it up yesterday. 23 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was just unstoppable, and he looked like the guy that a lot of people thought he could be when he came out of Clemson, and that he was at Clemson. So the Jags for me are one of my biggest winners. My other winner that I would say is my winner is the Raiders. I mean, I was very impressed by the Raiders. The Raiders look like a playoff team. They look like a team that could definitely get one of the final wild card spots in the AFC. Jimmy Garoppolo coming back from injury, he looked pretty good tonight. The defense, however, was great. I mean, 3 interceptions of Jordan Love, timely sacks after timely sacks after timely sacks. Max Crosby was everywhere all night long. Patrick Graham called a great game. And credit goes to Josh McDaniels. He called a great game. They ran the football effectively and very well, especially down the stretch. And, great win for the Raiders. And this is a win that I think could propel them moving forward. And let's see where this goes. And then, my 2 biggest winners tied to the same game, definitely the Niners. I was very surprised. I wasn't surprised they won, but I was surprised they blew the Cowboys out. I thought they were going to win, but I didn't think they were going to win by 32. I mean, that itself is definitely a massive statement that the Niners sent to the entire NFL world that, hey, we're not only the best team in the NFL, but we're levels ahead of all the competition in the NFL right now. And I think right now the Niners look like the Georgia Bulldogs of 2021. They just look levels ahead of everybody. And it's like, man, you could just pencil them into the Super Bowl at this point. If everybody stays healthy, you could just pencil them into the Super Bowl at this point, because I just don't see anybody in the NFC, especially with how weak it is, how it's not really loaded. Every team's got its flaws, that the Niners are just so much better, and I don't know any team in the NFC that can just beat the Niners right now. I really don't, and take them down. So the Niners are obviously one of my biggest winners. Kyle Shanahan with a lot of trickery in his offense yesterday, just completely slicing and dicing up Dan Quinn's stellar defense. He proved to be one of the best play callers in the NFL. Purdy played great. They ran the football. They didn't run the football really good. This was about the pass, and the Niners showed that, hey, you guys think we're a running team, but guess what? We could also hurt you by throwing the football, and that's what they did yesterday. And the defense was just outstanding. 3 interceptions of Dak Prescott, 1 fumble as well. I mean, just an outstanding game by the defense as well. And my last winner, and I don't know if, James, you might walk off the set or go to sleep in hearing this, but my biggest winner of week number 5 is Brock Purdy. I mean, this kid went on national TV after all the doubters like Nick Wright saying, oh, he's just a game manager. He's just a dink and dunker. And guess what he does? He throws for over 250 yards, 4 touchdowns against this vaunted Dallas Cowboys defense. And now I think you have to put him in there in the MVP conversation. I don't think that you can say that Brock Purdy is just a dink and dunker, because we saw last night he could throw deep, he can roll out and make magic happen. He can throw the check down. He just has a great feel for the game, and he's got great vision, and he's got the it factor when it comes to him playing football. And I mean, right now, I think with Mahomes struggling, not really looking so hot, with Herbert off to a shaky start, is Brock Purdy, guys, the MVP frontrunner at this point? Because you just look at it from top to bottom in the NFC and the AFC, who's playing the best and who's playing the more consistent football, and you just really can't argue with Purdy and his results. So definitely got to put Purdy up at one of the big winners. And then in terms of the losers, I gotta agree with you, Ben. The Patriots are my biggest loser. I mean, I thought that
It
this
wasn't even
season.
a loser. It was beyond a loser. It was
Yeah, yeah. I
Go ahead.
mean, the Patriots, they made the New Orleans Saints look like the 2009 New Orleans Saints. I mean, that's how pathetic it was. Like, they looked like a team with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Reggie Bush, Jeremy Shockey, Jimmy Graham were all on the team. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what type of offense I was watching out there for the New Orleans Saints. They were just moving down the field whenever they wanted. The Patriots defense couldn't get after Carr. They couldn't stop the run that much. Carr was just slicing and dicing up their secondary. And I remember we talked about this last week. J.C. Jackson, how much is he going to help with the loss of Christian Gonzalez? I think it's fair to say that J.C. Jackson has lost a step, and I don't know if he can recover that because that secondary looked bad. They looked lost. They looked like they didn't know what the heck was going on. And the Patriots, I mean, forget the offense. The defense was just getting sliced and diced up yesterday. And if your defense, which is your best unit on your team, is getting sliced and diced up and your offense can't do anything, and Mac Jones is turning the football over, you might, sadly, Ben, you might be in for a 2-15 type of a season or a 3-14 season. I mean, that's how bad the Patriots look right now. And Mac Jones looked god awful yesterday. The offensive line couldn't block. They couldn't open up holes for the running backs. The receiver sadly couldn't get open. I mean, Juju's hurt now. I mean, there's a lot of issues with this Patriots team, and I think sadly Bill Belichick needs to go. I think that he needs to go. New England, what they need is a new approach. They need what the Niners have with Shanahan. They need what the Rams have with McVay or the Packers have with LaFleur or any of these young up-and-coming offensive coaches. They need a young up-and-coming offensive coach with a new offense, a modern-day offense, and a modern approach into how you deal with players. Because that Belichick gruff approach where he's chewing everybody out, he doesn't care, that doesn't fly anymore. And you're seeing it. And the locker room just doesn't respond to that type of coaching from Bill Belichick. So I just think, sadly, Belichick's got to go. And maybe for Belichick's sake, going and getting a fresh new start is actually a good thing because like Andy Reid in Philly where he just maxed out or some of these great coaches, Mike Shanahan in Denver years back where he was very successful, but they just maxed out. Maybe for Belichick, he just maxed out in New England. And he needs to go somewhere else and have a fresh start. So Patriots, one of my biggest losers. Number two, I would probably say is the Green Bay Packers. I mean, the Packers, they were supposed to be a contender in the NFC North, but they look like a team that should go 6-11 this season. Jordan Love has looked shaky as of late. They haven't been able to run the football. Aaron Jones is always getting hurt. I don't even know why he did not play today. It doesn't make sense. It's just a lot of issues right now for the Packers, and they lost to a Raiders team who they should have beaten today, but they obviously didn't beat.
Yeah, and before we get back to you, James, I do want to kind of tell Isaiah a little bit about the Patriots and what I personally think. Of course, myself being a fan, and I'll tell him this, and I told James this, Isaiah. I said I've been fortunate. I've been really blessed. Obviously you're kind of at sky high in terms of your Niners. I felt this for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Looks like we lost him. Looks like he is coming back on though. If we can get him back on. Um Yeah, we got it. Can you hear me? Isaiah?
Yeah, I got you guys. Sorry, I had to switch from my
All right.
phone to my laptop because my phone was running out of battery.
All good. But I was mentioning about the Patriots in terms of just the overall kind of my feel before I get back to James. I saw them succeed and win for 20 years. I pretty much something that no other team can be able to accomplish. And the bashing of Bill Belichick this week has been absolutely mind-blowing to me because as much as people, criticize him, and he should be criticized for sure. Bill Belichick, the coach, is I don't think the problem. It's Bill Belichick, the GM, and he didn't have to worry about being a very good GM when he had Brady. But in this modern day era, and I told James this, Isaiah, is he is not adapting to the new era of football, and that's essentially mobile quarterbacks, faster defenses, um, and just the scheme and the buy-in. Essentially, like you mentioned, Mac Jones, make or break year this year, he's probably going to be gone. And I feel for the kid because they weren't really able to kind of give him the pieces around to have him potentially unlock. They didn't give him a lot of the skill weapons. His best weapon since he got drafted, and nothing to take away from Jacoby Myers, but if Jacoby Myers is your best weapon since you've gotten drafted, um, that sucks. That really does. But obviously this year he's really fallen off. Max specifically. Just to put another quarterback in doesn't really do you much because the offensive line is all broken down. This is a broken team as in this year, and I thought they'd be not great, but this was potentially my biggest worry, and now we're kind of feeling what a lot of NFL fans have felt for 20 years when we were dominating, and I didn't expect it to be this bad. I really didn't. But you're right. I think that they have to obviously kind of start from scratch, just start all over. Um, and I had a live I put on Facebook yesterday that I'm not mad, I'm not angry, I'm just empty. And I've gone on Patriot game every single year since I was younger, and this is like the first year I'm contemplating in terms of if I want to go or not. This is not a good product. It's a very boring product. On top of it, they're not fun. And it would be one thing that the team's not great, but at least they have some guys that are fun. It's a boring product. It really, really is. So that's what I told James. I said the Raiders play us next week. I have us losing it to the Raiders next week because they have a really good rush. Our offensive line is an absolute mess. I mean, there's really nothing that you could do. And the thing about it, Isaiah, too, is it's not an easy fix. There's no, you could say, oh, change the quarterback. Your offensive line can't protect you. What's that going to do? You don't have the guys around you. What's that going to do? So I
Well,
just don't know where things go from here.
Ben, hate to interrupt you, but let me ask you this because you're a Patriots fan.
Mhm.
If New England's 1-10, right? If they're 1-8,
Yeah.
obviously you gotta bench Mac Jones at that point, right? Because you gotta do something to shake up the team. You can't just stay here and just be like, you know what? We'll put the same product out on the field and get blown out by 30 points every single game. If you're 1-10, right, or you're 1-7, and Mac Jones continues to struggle, Patriots continue to lose by like 20, 30 points, which may happen, right? Because the Raiders' offense looked like they found their groove. Bills, Dolphins coming up. Do you part with Belichick midseason, or do you force him to resign if it gets that bad? Because I have a feeling this might just be the tip of the iceberg. Like I watched that game against the Saints yesterday, and I was just horrified. Like I was like, this is not the Patriots team of old. This is not even the Patriots team of new that made the playoffs like a couple years
Yeah.
ago. But it's like offensive line's not good. Raiders got a good rush. Defense can't get after the quarterback. Defense secondary looks lost. Wait till you play the Bills and Dolphins. I mean, it might be even worse than what we're talking about in a couple of weeks. So if you're 1-7, or let's say you get to 1-10, if you're 1-10, obviously I think Mac Jones is benched, right? Zappi's probably going to be playing at that point because you got to shake it up. But do you part with Bill at that point?
I think that Bill's probably gonna be gone a couple years anyway. I think at this point in time, Bill's the only reason why Bill's still coaching is he's still trying to get that Don Shula record. And I still think that in his overall mind, he still feels that, but I think that he doesn't want to go to another team outside the Patriots. I think that he personally will retire in a couple years. I think that right now, I think that he's going to talk with Kraft. I know that Kraft obviously is pissed because he's talked this offseason in terms of we want to be competitive year after year after year. And he's looking at this. I mean, yeah, you got blown out against the Cowboys. It's going to happen. You're going to have your bad ones. You made the New Orleans Saints, a team that wasn't even eclipsing 20 points for the last 9 games. 9 games. And you got blown out in your own building. Fans booing left and right. Quarterback got benched the second straight week. Your special teams isn't great. Your defense lost a step without Judon and Christian Gonzalez. They said Judon might come back in December. Rest them up. What do you got? You're not playing. You're not going to come back for anything.
Season's going to be over by then.
Season's going to be over by then. Yeah. Has a really weird feeling now to the Red Sox right now for me in terms of just last year. It was all bad. And so the thing about it too, Isaiah, which is I think some good news because there hasn't been a lot of good news in Patriot the last couple weeks. Right now, the Patriots are, I believe, 7th right now in the draft. I know, obviously, I don't want to talk draft right now, but they're top 7 right now in the draft. And I have to start taking a look at it. Because kind of the teams in front right now that are 1-4, I believe, are the Bears, the Vikings. Some teams right now. So it's really hard to say. Do they go and take? I've never seen this as a Patriot fan. Them for Bill Belichick for a team to try to go and tank. So I don't see that happening. So like I said, I don't know where you go from here. And I was actually the question about you saying, do they just bench Mac Jones like week 10? I think you just gotta keep running him out and just pretty much seen how this ownership pretty much screwed up the whole entire process. Not giving the weapons around him. The offensive line essentially struggled mightily, and pretty much Kraft looking at this and be like, my goodness. And by the way, Isaiah, we're top 5 right this offseason in cap space. So we essentially have a lot that we can work with. So if there's any silver lining, that's that we're top 5 in cap space, and you could just go out and go on a spreading spree and maybe draft a quarterback. It's the only way that this team can start over. I mean, and even Bill Belichick yesterday after the game, they asked him in terms of how can you fix it? He said, start over. I don't think I've ever heard Bill Belichick say that after a game. Start over.
Well, he looks done. He looks depleted.
I told James that. I said that he looks defeated, and I think that he knows in his mind, Isaiah, that his job is on the line. That his job is finally on the line after so many years. So it's eye popping. It really, really is eye popping. I mean, I said off the air yesterday to my brother, they made the New Orleans Saints look like the 2007 Patriots out there. I mean, that was just, good God, that looked awful. So I can go on and on about it, but I'm going to just keep everything else from here out. Hopefully things change around. James, obviously, best of luck for you guys this upcoming week. But I do want to talk about some other things, Isaiah and James. We'll talk a little preview of the NFL trade deadline. It's a couple weeks. We have some teams right now that are currently. Let's take a look at the overall AFC leaders. So you have Kansas City, Miami at 4-1. You got Pittsburgh and Jacksonville at 3-2. A lot of 3-2 teams actually. The AFC wild card, you got the Colts, Ravens, and Baltimore 3-2. A couple teams around buys this week, including the Chargers at 2-2. I'll tell you what, Isaiah and James, CJ Stroud and the Texans, they're 2-3, but Stroud's looked fantastic this year. He's really been eye popping. Now, obviously, and I was going to ask you too, Isaiah. I know that I talked to James about this. One of my winners for Week 5 was the Bengals. I know that they played the Cardinals, but Joe Burrow finally looked like the Joe Burrow that we've accustomed to, at least for this week of old. I saw a lot of that game. His a 65-yard touchdown throw. And I was like, yeah, that's the Joe Burrow that I knew in terms of his accuracy, being able to kind of get out of the pocket a little bit. Jamar Chase had a field day. So that obviously was good to see. NFC, you got the Eagles, you got the Niners at 5-0. How about the Lions at 4-1? Got the Bucks at 3-1. Dallas is 3-2. The Saints are 3-2, and then a couple teams at 2-3. You got a lot of 1-4 teams, and Carolina's 0-5. So the NFC is a little bit as ineffective as of right now. But I want to get to one of the teams outside the Patriots that hasn't been doing well, and this is where I kind of lead up in terms of the trade report. Is there is some breaking news according to Adam Schefter yesterday, guys, that the Denver Broncos are planning to look at moving some of their big-time pieces before October 31st deadline. And Isaiah, obviously, they kind of started early with the Broncos trading Randy Gregory to the 49ers. I really like this move for you guys defensively. It gives you guys a lot of depth in terms of your linebacking crew. So before we get into the other news for the Broncos in terms of their news, what's your overall reaction to this?
Are you going with me first or James?
With you, because it was the Randy Gregory news to the Niners.
Steal, massive steal. To get a player for Randy Gregory's talent. I know he's got a lot of off the field issues. Sometimes mentally he's not right, but you get a player who has that speed off the edge like Randy Gregory. To surround him with Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Drake Jackson, Cleveland Farrell from James's former Raider. Sadly, he's looked good in San Francisco. Javon Hargraves as well. You get him to surround surround him with those type of beasts at pass rushers. I mean, this dude is going to be unlocked. Like, if he can get mentally right, if he can buy into the culture, then I think that he's going to be one of the best pass rushers in the game. I mean, he's shown in his short stints with Dallas and Denver that he's got a lot of talent. And, you know, the Niners needed a guy opposite of Bosa who could dominate, because Bosa was getting so much double teams and triple teams because the guys off the edge like Jackson and Farrell, they've been good, but they just haven't done it consistently, and not a lot of teams feared them. Now you get that fear with Randy Gregory, his massive speed off the edge and getting to the quarterback and him being so ferocious. I mean, to get him for only a 6th-round pick and we get back a 7th-round pick and Randy Gregory, I mean, massive, massive steal. And don't forget, Randy Gregory's contract for the next 3 years after this year is not guaranteed. It's non-guaranteed. So if he doesn't work out, we can easily cut him. But if it works out, we could turn it into a signing bonus and, you know, basically get more cap space. So, I mean, it's just crazy how loaded our defensive line has become.
And what about you, James? What do you think of this move that the Niners made with Randy Gregory, who got cut, by the way, from the Broncos?
It's a low risk, high reward type of move. It's one of those moves that maybe will work out for Gregory, going to a place that he can flourish, just doing the minimum, bare minimum, where he's in a great situation now and he could just come in and just play and just contribute. Obviously, something just wasn't right there in Denver for him. And now he's going into an environment where they can take people like Farrell that Isaiah mentioned. And I knew right away once they took him from the Raiders that he was going to perform very well. So the same thing can happen with Gregory. He just has to have the right positive mindset and then the drive to do what he can do. So we've seen it before from him with Dallas. But you know, he's literally going. It feels like from the bottom to the top. You know, going from Denver to San Francisco. So that's a good feeling.
Yeah, for sure. Next week, we're gonna do our buyers and sellers leading up to the deadline. But obviously tonight, since we have a little content I want to get into, Bleacher Report had some things specific, some scenarios that I think we could talk about. We could have a little fun with this. Obviously, though talk about the Denver Broncos. They're kind of in a really tough position right now. They're kind of selling, kind of as of right now. Who are some pieces to look out for, to watch out for names wise? With the report from Adam Schefter for the Broncos to look at that you can kind of look at in terms of moving my guys right now. Obviously, the 2 receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, I think that they get a lot of value for those 2 guys. And I was reading a report today that it seems like that a lot of players are losing the locker room, as Sean Payton. So a lot of stuff not going great over there in Denver either. But yeah, I'd say Jeudy, Sutton, and the 2 guys in the back end, Justin Simmons, Patrick Surtain, maybe. I doubt Surtain, but I know that you get a really good value for him. And, I don't know if they're going to draft a quarterback, but I tell you what, with Russell Wilson, I know obviously that they gave him that massive that contract, but I'll rule out that the Broncos maybe draft the quarterback. I really want it because if they move on from some of their pieces, they kind of go more of a fire salad type thing. They might have to start off from scratch a little bit here too. So I would say the Broncos, James, have to kind of start from scratch. So who are some guys to watch out for if you're the Broncos kind of start selling off?
Jerry Judy, of course, or even Cortland Sutton. A lot of that defense. I don't think you get rid of Patrick Surtain, excuse me. But there's other people on that defense that definitely can use a different different environment because obviously they don't want to be there, and they're playing like it. You could tell. I mean, there's nothing there that makes them seem like they want to be there. So I could definitely see from that. And then if Javonte Williams is healthy, everybody can use a running back. I know they just had McLaurin do a great job, so they might just go with him. They trade Javonte Adams or Javonte Williams. Trying to remember the other receivers they have, but it was Judy, it was Sutton, and I'm missing one. But pretty much
They
that
have
whole wide
Marvin.
receiving. No, you keep Marvin Mims
Yeah,
Jr. and you actually play him the whole
yeah,
game. You don't sit him for one
right,
half like they did last week.
yeah.
Uh, so you keep him, but everybody else is pretty much expendable. I'll say that.
And what about you, Isaiah? I just asked James this question. Who are some guys, if you're the Broncos, to kind of keep an eye on ahead of this deadline in a couple weeks here?
Wow. So if I'm the Broncos, a couple guys to keep in mind or to look at Patrick Surtain because you would get a lot of great value for him. Young corner, has proven to be one of the best defensive players in the NFL. You would get like multiple first round picks for
Yeah,
Patrick Surtain, and Denver needs it because remember they don't have a first round pick. I think next year or next draft because they still owe the Seahawks in the Russell Wilson deal. If I'm not mistaken, in the Sean Payton deal, they also gave up a first round pick as well. So they don't have first round picks for the next couple of years. So I mean, the Denver Broncos they need as many first round picks as they can get. So Sertan definitely. If we're talking about a full blown teardown, Jerry Judy, Cortland Sutton, you may want to even think about trading Javonte Williams, the talented running back. Garrett Bowles. A lot of teams need offensive
Garrett
line
Bowles, I
help.
forgot him. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. I think he would be a solid piece. I think my Niners actually should look at him because we definitely need help at that right side of the offensive line. And then I'm looking at some other guys. Uh, you know, maybe
Simmons.
Simmons. Yeah, people need safeties. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know this is probably not going to happen, but you got to dangle Russell Wilson out there. See if maybe a
Mm,
team will bite. I mean, solid quarterbacks don't grow on trees. And I know, listen, I was bashing Russ yesterday for his bad decision after the game,
oh
but
God.
um, but Russell Wilson, he's not bad. Like he played decent. This says he has played decent so far. He has looked a little bit like the Russell Wilson of old. But maybe you dangle him out, offer another team, some cash, take on some of his contract, and maybe someone will bite. But definitely need to start over at that quarterback position. And it looks like Sean Payton doesn't even want Russell Wilson because after that play in which Russ fumbled, Payton was shown to be just absolutely livid with Russell Wilson.
Now, couple things specific in terms of the Broncos is the Panthers had a storyline where they're actively looking for a true wide receiver one. Uh, obviously the Panthers are 0-5. Obviously they're kind of looking at, Bryce trying to get his true guy for the future. Is a guy like Jerry Judy maybe a guy that maybe Bryce Young needs to kind of revive his career, for the next couple of years here, or do you feel they kind of should take a look at the offseason? I know that maybe a guy like T. Higgins or Mike Evans might be a better fit, but in terms of a team that would look for a guy like a Jerry Judy or Cortland Sutton, who are some teams maybe you want to take a look at here?
For I would go with Sutton, not more so Judy, because Judy has been really injury prone. I know Sutton has been injury prone as well, but I feel like Judy has gotten injured a lot in his career, and he's also dealt with a lot of issues with drops. So I think with Judy, I just feel like for Bryce Young's sake, I wouldn't do it if I'm the Carolina Panthers, especially if the Broncos want a first round pick back for. I wouldn't do it. If I'm Denver, right, I would wait until the offseason because I really think there's a lot of guys who are coming up on, a lot, either they need contracts or they're getting expensive that I think they could be available. There's also could be some shockers that could be available, like Mike Evans, you named. Keep this in mind, guys. Brandon Ayuk, could he be available? Because he is in line for a massive contract, and the Niners have a lot of massive contracts. And, you have guys like Kittle, Debo, Bosa, all those guys. Could Brandon Ayuk be available because the Niners just don't want to
love him. I would love him in New England.
Hey, he would be good in New England. He would be good. But I think Ayuk has definitely showed that he could be a true number one. And with him, his speed, his route running abilities, with Bryce Young, I mean, he could definitely be what Stephon Diggs is now to Josh Allen. So keep that one in mind. And I would throw out another Niner. How about Debo Samuel? I mean, Debo Samuel hasn't really done a lot this year, and he's going to be coming up on those years of his new deal where he's going to be getting a lot of money. And Debo just hasn't really been that old Debo Samuel of old that we know. And Ayuk has taken more of the playing times. I'm not the playing time, but more of the touches because Purdy just loves throwing the football to Brandon Ayuk. So could the Niners just trade Debo, get some picks back, and just have Ayuk sign that new deal since has shown that he's Purdy's favorite receiver? I mean, those questions are going to be answered this offseason for sure.
All right, let's talk next. I'm on a Bleacher Report thing that I feel like we can have some fun with in terms of just fire sale scenarios and just storylines for some teams that are kind of looking at that specifically. Kind of like a early little preview for next week. James, in this article here, they said find a taker potentially for Josh Jacobs. Now, I know that Jacobs specifically probably won't get moved, but he's kind of had an underwhelming season so far. Do you feel like specifically that the Raiders maybe in the next couple of years should maybe part ways with him? Because I know obviously that they're a team, that might be able to find a running back, and a lot of teams specifically, guys, they don't pay running backs long-term deals. That's just something that they don't do. So, what would you think about that, James?
I don't think the Raiders are going to deal him at the deadline unless he wants to be dealt, and then they have to find the right suitor. Remember, they really couldn't in the holdout time, so they were not going to budge anyway. So he's eventually just going to go in the off season. The smart thing for the Raiders to do is not bring him back. They probably have to get younger with the running backs there and cheaper. So I know Jacobs will probably find somewhere else to go in the off season. Try to get 1 year deals wherever he goes, but he has to ball out though. He hasn't looked so good. So in order to get the contract he thinks he deserves, he's got to run better. Remember, he led the league in rushing last year. This year, he finally scored his first touchdown, and then he's not running for big gains anymore. So I think the Raiders will hold off trading him unless he really wants out, and then if not that, then eventually he'll be a free agent, and then almost like Saquon Barkley in a way, where you feel like both should probably leave their situations for somewhere else, and it's just going to be the off season of those two, like it was this year with them holding out. The upcoming offseason, it's going to be new destinations and then 1 year contracts from now on in their careers.
And what about you, Isaiah? In terms of the Raiders, should they part ways down the road with Josh Jacobs? It feels kind of like a Saquon Barkley situation specifically. And actually, in this article, they did kind of talk about maybe how the Giants should move from Saquon. So we can talk about that in a little bit. But what do you feel about that? If the Raiders moved on with Jacobs down the road?
I don't think they should do it right now because I think the Raiders have shown, especially tonight, that hey, it looks like we found our groove and that we could be a playoff contender in the AFC. They have the Patriots coming up. They need to win that game, and then they have not that bad of a schedule coming up after that. So I think the Raiders should wait it out because if they do make a run for the playoffs, they will need Josh Jacobs. But if let's say they lose to the Patriots next week, and then they just continue to lose, then obviously they should definitely trade him at the trade deadline. But also keep in mind, I think the Raiders won't be the only team in the market to trade a running back. I could see the New York Giants. I could see them trading Saquon at the deadline because they are 1-4 right now. And their season is it's not going to get any easier. So I could definitely see the Giants as well. But for the Raiders, they should hold on right now, keep a wait and see approach, and then see what happens in a couple of weeks.
All right, the next thing we're going to talk about, and Steven, if you're watching, they say the Vikings should move on from the Kirk Cousin era. And I think that's pretty much, at this point in time, feels inevitable. He's in his last year on his deal, I believe there. And Kirk Cousins, guys, this year has had fairly a pretty good year. It's their defense that's been really, really been holding them back. But Kirk Cousins, and I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins fan myself, but I tell you, I mean, this year he's leading in passing touchdowns. He has 13. He has a very good QBR rating, only 4 interceptions. Not going well because Kirk Cousins is bound to throw a lot of picks. In the last couple of years, he's been very inconsistent with it. But this year's been pretty good so far. If you thought specific in terms of Kirk Cousins, so essentially the top 10 in terms of passing touchdown, number 1 is Kirk Cousins. Number 2, it's a 4-way tie with 11 touchdowns between Fields, Allen, Tagovailoa, and Wilson. Mahomes is 6th, Goff is 7th, Purdy is 9th. Actually, I'll take that back. Goff and Purdy each have 9 touchdowns. Love is 8, and Herbert has 7. So, I mean, Cousins really has done a good job there in Minnesota, but that team is essentially rebuilding at this point in time. I do want to ask you guys this as we talk about Kirk Cousins. Is Justin Jefferson going to ask out? Because I think at this point in time, there's been kind of some flashes in the last couple of weeks that he seems frustrated. If Kirk Cousins goes on, does he still want to stick around with the new quarterback, a young drafted quarterback? I don't know. I really don't know. I think that does he want to go on and compete for a championship? He's by far, I think, the best receiver in football. So I got 2 questions for you, for each of you guys on the Vikings. I'll go to you, James. 1. Do you, in terms of Kirk Cousins, because I think he still has a lot of decent football in him, what do you think a team could go? Which team do you think could go after him? And 2, do you feel like Justin Jefferson will ask out?
Okay, number 1, I hope Cousins leaves that situation. It's not him. Let's just make that clear. It's not really him. It's the defense giving up the points. So Cousins has to, play catch up, basically. My hope, and I don't know if this could get done because of Ryan Tannehill's contract, but maybe they can move off of that. But that'd be cool to see him in Tennessee. I mean, if you get him some weapons in Tennessee, I think that'd be awesome. Possibly New England. If they want to air it out, I would love to see that.
A stopgap for the next guy. I can see it.
Yeah, I can see that definitely because I don't think they want to trade him in conference. It's got to be AFC. So either the Patriots or Titans, they can be really good teams, but they need that explosive quarterback who can, air it out. I really think that. And the second question about Justin Jefferson, if he's wanting to leave, I know eventually he'll get the bag that he deserves, and I think he'll stick it out. But the thing is, I think he's going to wait and see which quarterback they go out and draft. What they'll do with Kirk Cousins, and then after that, if he's gone, then since they're doing bad enough, they're gonna have a top 5 pick if things go the way they're going. Well, you're going to be in line to get someone really good and young that maybe he can run and make things happen. And then you compare that with who you have with Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne, and then you have Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson. To be honest, man, they should be better than what they are. They have great talent offensively. It's just defensively, they do have some good pieces, but Harrison Smith is getting older, and
Their
then
defense is
after
just
that,
horrible.
yeah, their defense you can't really rely on. So it's not all on Kirk Cousins, and I hope Jefferson exercises some patience and just see what can come out of this. Either he gets a younger quarterback, a Michael Penix Jr., who's ever out
Oh,
there after
okay.
Caleb Williams. I would love to see
Yep.
Justin Jefferson stay with the Vikings because you can play in that dome. You're playing in a division that's winnable. It can happen. You just maybe stay there, see how things develop. Now, maybe in 1 or 2 years, if you don't see anything developing and you get your contract, you say, "Well, I don't want to be here anymore because I know they can't win with who they have," and then you ask for a trade.
I 100% agree. How about you, Isaiah? Kirk Cousins, obviously the Vikings. Probably. I don't know if he's gonna get traded. Come the deadline in a couple weeks, but I don't pretty much do know for sure it's inevitable that his days in with the Vikings are pretty numbered at this point in time, whether it's at the deadline or whether it's at the end of the year. Uh, what are some teams to look out for potentially for his services? And then, do you feel like Justin Jefferson might ask out? Pretty much knowing that Cousins is going to be out.
First of all, I am loving what I'm seeing from the Vikings because it just proves our point from last year that the Minnesota Vikings were absolutely frauds. So the fact that they're now 1-4 and there's a good chance. I mean, they could be 1-6. I mean, it just goes to show you, man. Like you can't luck your way to a Super Bowl. But about Kirk Cousins, yeah, I think he's gonna absolutely be gone because I just think the Vikings are free falling and they're gonna continue to free fall. And I just think that with the Minnesota Vikings, if you're 1-6, it's like with the Patriots. If you're 1-6, if you're 1-7, you gotta make a change and you gotta do something to shake it up. And when you're 1-7, because I think at the point of the trade deadline, it's gonna be that 8-week mark. So the Vikings could
Mhm.
really be theoretically be 1-8 at that or 1-7 at that point. Then Minnesota just sell it off because if you're 1-7, I don't think there's ever been a team that's been 1-7 and made it to the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. Like I don't think when you're 1-7, you are done. Like you are done. So, plus they have a really hard schedule down the stretch as well. So I do think Minnesota needs to sell. I think that Cousins needs to, if I'm the Vikings, I start shopping him now because the schedule just doesn't get much easier. I think teams that could be on the lookout for Cousins, the Jets, obviously, because if New York can just,
Yep.
if they can hang in there the next couple of weeks, bringing in
Yeah.
Cousins makes a lot of sense. Plus, he's on an aspiring deal, so you get him, you let him play out this year, and then Rodgers comes back next year. So it makes a lot of sense right
Like that.
there.
Mm.
The other teams I would say for Cousins, oh man. I think the Jets are the biggest one. I mean, they need a quarterback right now. Zach Wilson. I mean, he should have had 3 picks yesterday against Denver,
Mm.
and Denver's defense is not very good. So I think that for the Jets, they are definitely the biggest contender for Cousins. And then some other teams. Oh, it depends. Like we don't want to see injury, but it really depends on who gets hurt. if let's say Stafford gets hurt or Purdy gets hurt, God forbid, or someone else gets hurt, like then Cousins would be perfect to fill in that spot. But right now, a lot of teams have their quarterbacks locked in, and they just are paying so much money to their quarterbacks, or they gave up a lot of draft picks to come get them. So you wouldn't really remove a quarterback right now and put Cousins in. Maybe Tennessee, but they just drafted Will Levis, so it doesn't really make sense there. I'm trying to think of another spot. I was gonna say New England, but the thing is with the Patriots is if you're Cousins, right, and you're going to and you go walk into that situation, I don't think Cousins would be walking into a much better situation because I just think New England would probably, given their schedule, they might be 1-8 as well by the trade deadline. If you're the
Yeah,
Patriots, would you give?
it would have to be in the offseason specifically because I think that
Yeah,
he
yeah.
he might not get traded specifically. So I think that there's going to be some teams that might need a quarterback as like a stopgap. And what James mentioned in terms of the Patriots, that the Patriots don't want to like draft right away for a guy. I mean, he could be a guy that if he plays out for a team, there could be some teams that could have his services for like a couple years or something.
Right, right. I think the Patriots could make sense if Belichick really wants a veteran after not, drafting a good quarterback in Jones. So that could be an option. Um, how about Denver? How about Denver?
Mm.
Replacing
Yep.
Russell Wilson. Sean Payton likes veteran quarterbacks. It just seems like Russ is not the type of guy that Sean Payton wants. Pocket passer,
Mm.
really good in the pocket. That's Kirk Cousins. So I think Kirk Cousins is more of a Sean Payton type quarterback. And then you know what? If we're talking off season, last but not least, I'm gonna do it. The 49ers. Because if Purdy
Ooh.
gets hurt, if he gets hurt again, and God forbid has a major injury again, then Shanahan, I wouldn't rule it out because Shanahan has been wanting to get Cousins into San Francisco for quite some
Mm.
time. So I could see him doing it, especially if Purdy suffers a major injury late in the season or in the playoffs.
All right. The last one we'll talk about, and then Isaiah, I will talk with you about the baseball player as probably before we conclude tonight's show because obviously you came a little bit later. Um, the Giants moving on from Saquon Barkley. I think that the Giants, obviously, Daniel Jones has a neck injury that he described as the similar injury he had in 2021, which pretty much ended a lot of his season. So the Giants, they're pretty much going to be in a rebuilding. They're pretty much going to be toast. So Saquon Barkley, they placed the franchise tag. No, I'm sorry. They give him, I believe, a 1-year deal till the end of the season. Uh, he's going to get a lot of suitors out there this offseason. I mean, he's still a very athletic, talented I was going to say quarterback, running back. But his injuries, a lot of teams are going to be trying to. They don't want to pay for somebody that has injury problems. But with that being said, Isaiah, should the Giants move on from Saquon? Me personally, I think they should. He just can't stay on the field specifically consistently, and I think at this point in time, he wants to win a championship. So, a team like Miami, a team like Buffalo, a team that needs like pretty decent running backs. Um, Tampa Bay. I think that if they get a quarterback, and obviously Evans, I know is a free agent, but if they keep Evans specifically, I think they have a decent chance to. Tampa Bay could be interesting. But what do you think about that situation?
I think the Giants should have prioritized Saquon over Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes just doesn't look like he's throwing a lot of dimes right now. Um, the the Saquon Barkley, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You were prioritizing the run game all season long, and now you pay the quarterback. Like it makes no sense
Mm,
whatsoever. What Brian Dable, Joe Shane, and the Giants, what they were even doing. I think that for Saquon, I don't think he'll be traded this season unless it gets really bad in New York. Like if the New York Giants are 1-8
mm,
or 1-7, which could happen, but if that happens, I think they could because they can get some value for him and not let Saquon walk for nothing. But I mean, I don't know. Like I think the only teams that I could see maybe trying to get a running back, um, Wow. Who really needs a running back? Like Dallas is Pollard, Niners got
Yeah.
McCaffrey,
Eagles got Swift.
Eagles got Swift, and the Giants would never trade with the
Uh,
Eagles. I don't think so.
no.
Like I don't know if
Oh
any
man.
could make. Sadly, I could see Kansas City being in that mix
Yeah,
because
of course.
Pacheco has not looked that great. Edwards
Yeah.
Hilaire has not looked that great. I could see that. Uh, you know, I'm thinking about
Hmm.
other like playoff teams that could get him. Like,
Buffalo and Miami really are the two. I mean, well,
yeah,
Miami's really good though. I mean, they've got some running backs. That kid that's been balling there. Buffalo for sure. I think James Cook is pretty good, but I think they can definitely upgrade there. And
yep.
um, I feel like Allen maybe has a relationship there with him. So we'll have to see. I mean, obviously it's kind of a moot point right now, but obviously that was kind of something on the Bleacher Report article. And we'll talk more about that stuff specifically next week. There's probably gonna be some more rumors and stuff like that next week. We're gonna do kind of our buyers and sellers of the deadlines next week. We'll talk our NFL stuff. Next show we'll do our week 4 or actually week 5 reactions more in depth, and then we'll do our game picks for week 6. So Isaiah, before we go for tonight, and we do appreciate you coming on. I do want to get your overall thoughts on the playoffs. Obviously, I talked with James about that. So the division rounds, obviously, your Philadelphia Phillies had a tough one today
Oh,
or yesterday now. Man, but what a game. It's still 1-1. They did take care of business, but obviously they had a missed opportunity today. So they go to 1-1. The Diamondbacks have a convincing 2-0 series lead. I'll go for the Loro and those Dodgers, which is obviously a little bit shocking. I'll give them credit. The Twins even up their series against the Astros, and the Texas Rangers are 2-0 over the Orioles. So, since I've kind of already talked about it a little bit already earlier on, I'll let you take the floor here. In terms of a lot of these series, I guess you could start from the ones that happen tonight, and then kind of overall outlook for the other series ahead. So I'll at least ask you about the National League, of course, because you're a
mm-hmm.
Phillies fan. Just your overall thoughts of that so far and that series, and then pretty much every other series, from now till games 3, which are going to be coming up soon.
This was a devastating loss by the Philadelphia Phillies. There's no other way to put it. I mean, we were dominating that game the entire game, and then the 8th inning, we just collapsed. Rob Thompson, I don't know what he was doing with his bullpen
Yeah.
decisions, and I criticized him all season long for his bullpen decisions, but I don't get the decision to go to Albert or to go to Hoffman in the 8th. Like Hoffman has been Philadelphia's low leverage reliever this season. He hasn't really pitched much in the high leverage situations, and we're going to him in like the 8th inning or the 7th and 8th in big moments in game 1 and game 2. Like it just makes no sense. Like you have Alvarado available, you have Dominguez who's available, you have Gregory Soto who you got in the deadline, or not in the deadline, but in the off season. He's available, power throwing arm. You even have Kimbrough available. You could have got a Kimbrough too.
Yeah.
And you just choose Hoffman. Like it makes no sense. Like it makes no sense that you pick a guy that is typically used for mop-up duty or when the team is up by a lot to come in and pitch in that big moment. Like when he came in, I was like, oh crap, he's gonna give it up because that's what he does. And I'm not surprised that he gave it up. Like his stuff is good, but he doesn't know how to locate it, and that's the problem. Like you can throw 97 all you want, but when you're throwing 97 right down the middle, like obviously Austin Riley's going to hit that out. So, this is on Rob Thompson. I mean, this was just the Phillies had this game. Then he goes out, pulls Wheeler too late. He gives up that home run. Alvarado comes in. Alvarado is decent. But the decision to go to Hoffman is going to be the decision that will forever haunt the Phillies, especially if they lose the series, because that decision changed the course of the series. Since you could have gone to Dominguez, you could have gone to Kimbrough, but instead you chose Jeff Hoffman, who before April or before May, he was a journeyman. He was a guy that was spent most of his career in the minor leagues. and now you bring him in to pitch when the big lights are on. Like, of
Playoff
course he's
game.
gonna start. So yeah, like this was 1,000% on Hoffman. On Rob Thompson for putting Hoffman in that situation. We never gets put in that situation. As far as the offense, I mean, Philadelphia, Harper was good in this game. Castellanos was good. Alec Boehm continues his monster playoff performance.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was a lot of chances for the Phillies to get more than 4 runs,
Yes.
especially early. They had a lot of base runners. But they ended up only getting, I believe it was like 1 or 2 runs early before the Real Muto home run. They definitely need to get better in terms of getting the base runners in. But other than that, I just feel like it was a good game until the end when Philly blew it with Hoffman, and then, the last play, right, where Castellanos hits
That
the
was a
ball.
great
Great play, exactly. Castellanos,
Fantastic play.
yeah, he gets. I mean, that was first of all, that credit to Michael Harris. That was an amazing catch. Like that ball, if that ball gets by him, or if he doesn't get that, that's a double.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a double, and it's to the wall, and Philadelphia not ties the game, and they got a runner at second base. So, credit to him for making that catch. With Harper, it's tough because off the bat, I thought that ball was going to be a double. I thought it was going to be double. I didn't think Harris was going to get to it, but it took just a crazy catch by Michael Harris to make that grab. And then Harper, I mean, by the time I know a lot of people are saying, but he should have, but it's a fly ball. Like he should have just not ran to second that quick. But it's like, dude, off the bat, it looked like a double. It looked like a guaranteed double. It looked like nobody was going to get to it. And that's why Harper ran. And he, obviously, unfortunately, was thrown out at second base. But I mean, it was just a bad ending for the Phillies. But I don't think that play, the Harper, the Castellanos, where he flies out to right center field, and then Harris with an amazing play gets it back to the infield. The infielder bobbles it, and then Riley gets it back, throws it to first. I don't think that was the thing that really cost the Phillies. It was the Hoffman decision. Like that is the one that I feel like is going to change the series. And I feel like, sadly for the Phillies, if they lose the series, blame it on Rob Thompson for putting in Jeff Hoffman. He should have never done it. It made no sense to do it. Especially in a close game like that, you don't put in a guy who's only there for mop-up duty.
Yeah, and I was telling my brother this too when we were watching the game that after I think it was Acuna got hit when it was 3-2, but also when Olsen hit that home run, no, not the homer, the single, Wheeler was cruising for sure, but I also felt too that maybe Thompson kept him a little too long before he gave the 2-run homer to Jarnell.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Ben. I thought he kept him in a little too long. His pitches didn't look like they had a lot of life left in them, so I thought he should have gone to the bullpen. But I mean, Wheeler. The thing with Rob Thompson is I feel like he doesn't have the right feel when it comes to making bullpen decisions. Right? He doesn't know. Like in the World Series, he pulled Wheeler too early when we were like, dude, why are you pulling him when he only was at like 80 pitches at that point? That didn't make any sense. But now this one, it was like he pulled him too late. And you have a well-rested bullpen. You have a bullpen that's ready to go. A lot of great power arms in there. I feel like what Thompson should have done is pulled Wheeler and then gone with Soto and then gone Dominguez and then Alvarado, or you flip-flop those two and then go to Kimbrel in the 9th inning. Like I thought that's what he should have done. It just made no sense that, for one, I'm not really pissed that he made the decision to pull Wheeler late, but it was the decision to put in Hoffman. That was the one that really I just had it with that, because you don't put in a guy that's low leverage, mop up duty guy to pitch in big moments like that.
All right. Obviously, outside of that series, Isaiah, what are some of the other reactions to the other series going on right now?
I don't want to jinx it, but I think the Texas Rangers are on their way to the ALCS, because they look like a team, Ben, that they have the Orioles shook right now. I mean, they go into Baltimore. That first game when they
Yeah.
won, I was like, "Oh my god, I cannot believe they won that game because the Rangers did everything in their power to lose that baseball game." It started before the game when Bruce Bochy made that decision with the Orioles starting Kyle Bradish, one of the top young pitchers in all of baseball. He's been one of the top starters in all of baseball this season. When he made the decision to go with Andrew Heaney to counter Kyle Bradish and go with a bullpen game, I was like, oh crap, dude. You're basically conceding the game at that point since you have the best pitcher for the Orioles, best pitcher and one of the best pitchers in baseball going up against a bullpen game. Like I thought they were gonna lose. And it's at Camden Yards, it's game one. But credit to Andrew Heaney. I mean, credit to the Rangers for fighting. Heaney gave you 3, Dunning gave you 3, I believe, and then you go to the bullpen with Will Smith. Spores had a nice couple of outs that he got, and then Aroldis Chapman. I still don't know. It's been 4 days since the game. I don't know how Aroldis Chapman got out of that without any damage done. I mean, with his control issues, I don't know if you were watching that game, but it was you had runner at first and second after he gave up a leadoff, or no, yeah, he had runner at first and second after he gave up a leadoff base hit, and then he walked the next batter on just 4 pitches. I was like, oh crap, dude, it's gonna be, dude. I thought it was gonna be disaster for the Rangers because they were clinging on to a 3-2 lead, runner at second and first, and then somehow, some way, they get a ball hit like to Josh Young, who picks it nicely. He gets a double play, and you go from runner at first and second to only, I believe, a runner at third with 2 outs now instead of with nobody out. And then Chapman gets the strikeout, and I'm like, how the heck did he go from being on the brink of disaster, from the brink of giving it up and potentially losing game one, to just being like, oh, it's fine. We just got out of it with no damage done. Like, I just don't get that. And then in the ninth, I mean, Leclerc, first to Gunnar Henderson, first pitch he throws, yanked in the right field for a base hit. I was like, oh, crap. Dude, Leclerc's I thought Leclerc's going to give it up. And then I don't know what Gunnar Henderson, I don't know what he was thinking. Oh, my God. Like, you have a guy at first, Henderson, and then Leclerc follows that up with the next batter. It was quickly 2 balls and no strikes. He was not throwing any strikes. And then he throws a fastball right down the middle, so that was a strike. And then on a 2-1 pitch, Aaron Hicks swings at a pitch that's way inside, and he grounds it to short. And Aaron Hicks, like it's a 2-1 pitch. Hicks, I don't know what he's doing at all. He takes a fastball, another fastball, like right down the middle, perfect position for Heim to catch it. Doesn't even swing at it, and Heim throws it right to second, right there, and you erase Henderson. I was like, how did the Rangers get out of it? I mean, the Rangers tried so many times to lose that game on Saturday, and the Orioles just cannot capitalize. And it just shows you that experience matters in the postseason. And I know you have a team full of youth that had a great regular season, but for the Baltimore Orioles, if they had more experience, I don't think they would be making the mistakes that they would be making, and they would be capitalizing. I don't think Henderson would have stole second base in that situation if he was more experienced. And also, I don't think that, guys like Rushman and other young players would be so anxious and swinging at bad pitches and grounding into double plays. Like, I just don't think that would have happened. So this is massive for the Rangers, because I thought for the Rangers, you got to take at least one game in Baltimore. I thought it would be the second game, but they go into Baltimore, take game one, and then you have Montgomery, Eovaldi, and your top 2 pitchers lined up for the next 2 games, and then the third game is at home. So I thought for the Rangers, take game one, or take one of the 2 games. They take game one, and then in game 2, I didn't think they were going to win, because I thought Baltimore was going to come back strong. So I was like, okay, we took game 1, it's fine, we did our job. And then they go again and take game 2, and they put up a lot of runs. I mean, Grayson Rodriguez, who was supposed to be one of the young star pitchers of the series, he gives up 9 runs in 2 innings. I mean, he got absolutely rocked. And again, it goes back to no experience for the Orioles, and that's why the Rangers right now are sitting here with a 2-0 series lead, and they just look like a buzzsaw right now. And back in Texas, chance to close out the series and go to the ALCS, I mean, it's going to be an electric crowd. First time there's playoff baseball in Texas since 2012, I believe, is how it's been that long.
Something like that.
So, yeah, that fan base in Arlington is going to be electric. And, Nathan Eovaldi's on the mound, and he has always stymied the Orioles. So it does not look good for the Baltimore Orioles. And if I'm the Texas Rangers, you got to close it out tomorrow. You cannot give the Orioles any life. If you close it out tomorrow, then it's ball game. But if the Orioles win tomorrow, they're going to start feeling good about themselves. And this is a best of, remember, this is a best of 5. It's not a best of 7. So, I've seen situations where, and I remember this, 2012 San Francisco Giants, where they were down 2-0, lost the first 2 games, went on the road and won the next 2, won game 3, thrilling fashion, then had some life going into game 4. They won game 4, and then they won game 5 in Cincinnati. So the Rangers have to take care of business and shut it down tomorrow. Don't give the Orioles any life.
Yeah. And then what about the other 2 matchups?
Dodgers and D-backs, Ben. I think the Dodgers are cooked. They don't look like their offense is not hitting. They have picked a wrong time to not find their groove and not hit. And it's not just the offense is not hitting. It's the starting pitching that's been awful. I mean, Kershaw gave up like 6 runs after only recording 1 out. I mean, it was crazy to see. And then Bobby Miller, he had 3 runs in the first 2 innings. So he wasn't that great as well. So sadly, Ben, I think the Dodgers are cooked. And I know Loro probably won't like us for saying that, but I mean, you're going back to Arizona after losing the first 2 games at home. I do trust the Dodgers more than the Orioles, though, because to come back from a 0-2 deficit, because the Dodgers have done it before. They've come back from major deficits in series. So I don't think the Dodgers will panic, but the Dodgers don't look good. And if they get swept, then it begs the question, is Dave Roberts going to come back? Because this Dodger team, they were, a lot of people were saying they are the favorites for the World Series. And so now you look at it, they get swept, not even winning a game, and you get swept by the 6th seed in the divisional series. There's going to be a lot of questions for the Dodgers, and I think that Kershaw is probably going to be gone afterwards. And Dave Roberts, his job might be in question after this series. And about the last series, this might be the best series of this, or this one in the Phillies and Braves. I think is going to be the best series because the Twins and Astros are just so evenly matched, and both have great pitching staffs, both have great offenses. It's been so much fun to watch the first 2 games of this series.
Yeah, the Twins were able to find a way to take one in Houston for sure. So we'll talk obviously more later on in the week. I told James that we might be talking about the LCS matchups later on in the week for sure. But without further ado, that'll be it for tonight's show on Kicking with Kruse. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe to all of our fun stuff throughout the week. My final thoughts is good show. As usual, got through a lot of the week 5 stuff. Some of the baseball stuff specifically. We'll probably talk a little college football. Week 7, I think it's week 7 for them this weekend, which is crazy, something like that. But the football season's flying by already, which is crazy. But yeah, final thoughts is just good show. Thank you both for coming on for decent amount of time, and yeah, what about you, Isaiah?
Yeah, my final thoughts is it was a great show. Thank you to everybody that tuned into the program tonight. Ben, thanks for having me on the program. Sorry I came on a little bit late, but I mean, it was still a great show. But we're hoping to maybe get in a extra point tomorrow or get in a either extra point or batter up, depending on my schedule depending on our schedule. So make sure you tune in for that. If it's not tomorrow, then it's going to be Wednesday, either one of those 2 days. So make sure you guys keep in touch about that. And then last but not least, my last final thought that I'll say is, it's crazy how fast football season has gone. It feels like it just started and now we're in the middle of the season already. So it feels so crazy. And, I can't wait for Thursday Night Football because I feel like the game between the Broncos and the Chiefs is going to be a defining game for Denver. Obviously, they need to win that game. And I can't wait for the baseball playoffs. I mean, we're going to have the ALDS tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, all the series are actually tomorrow. So it's going to be a great day of baseball. Can't wait for that. And, you know, imagine this, Ben. Rangers, Astros, ALCS. Max Scherzer is going to be ready. Scherzer, Verlander, game one. I mean, that might actually happen. I mean, we're close. If the Rangers can finish off the Orioles and then the Astros finish off the Twins, I mean, we're in for a treat in that ALCS.
Definitely so. And thank you, James, for coming on earlier as usual. Appreciate him, and obviously with this Raiders winning tonight, for sure. But guys, without further ado, we're gonna get with the outro here. Signing off, go guys. This has been Kruse alongside Isaiah Leon. Thank you guys as always for the Kicking with Kruse show, and we will see you guys next time.
Oh my God! The goal to go from the two. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it under the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. Diving to the goal line. A touchdown and a title for the Patriots. I can't believe it. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Puppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.